Good morning and welcome back to Stop Loss with Spencer. I'm very excited about this topic today, even though it sounds really cool. Lasers are not that cool when it comes to stop loss, so we are talking about lasers. Lasers, Spencer. All right. So as you can see, I put a lot of time again into my artistry, my illustration, and I have a laser beam coming out of the A, and it is targeting poor A. Smith and his little bitty baby blue eyes and spiky hair. He's been lasered. What does that mean? Okay. So if you haven't watched my first video, go back and watch. Please, you need to understand what specific stop loss is. You need to understand what a specific stop loss deductible is. So if you haven't done that, I'm going to post it below. Please go watch it. Okay. That's the foundation for what I'm going to talk about here. So if you guys recall from that first video, I used 100K spec as an example. And you have the entire population and their dependents. You know, this is a really small group, self-funded employer. There's like 8 people, okay? But they all have 100K spec. So that illustration again, the employer pays everything up to $100,000. But if anybody else besides poor old A. Smith has a claim that exceeds that specific deductible, then the stop loss carrier is going to reimburse for everything over 100K. But not when it comes to Mr. A. Smith. Why has he been lasered? What does it mean? Why does he have a higher deductible? The reason lasers apply is they're often sometimes called specific assessments as well. Laser sounds cool. Don't even really know where the name came from. Any of you underwriters out there that know why it's called a laser, please tell me. My assumption is it's because you're targeting an individual or whatever. But why has A. Smith been designated with his own unique proprietary deductible? Well, something's going on with his claims history, okay? He has probably been sick, is projected to be sick, receiving very high levels of treatment, whether medical, prescription, or a combination of both. Maybe he's solely on a medication that costs $20,000 a month. Who knows? But the point is, A. Smith represents a known risk to the plan that is larger than normal, and he constitutes a high enough level of known risk that the stop loss carrier said, you know what, I cannot absorb his risk. And what do I mean by absorb? I mean, hey, I'm in a stop loss carrier, I'm taking premium in. I know based on the risk of this plan, if I've underwritten it properly and it goes as expected, I'm going to make money on this case. Well, in this particular instance, A. Smith is such a high level of known risk, meaning he's very predictable that he is going to breach the normal deductible, and there's also potentially not enough premium in this case to absorb his risk and still be profitable to the stop loss carrier. So we've got to give him his own deductible. And in this particular instance, I've said Mr. A. Smith has a 250K spec. So what that means is now the employer, rather than just funding up to the first $100,000 of any claim, if it applies to A. Smith, they have to fund the first $250,000. So there's another $150,000 of risk specific to him that the employer is now on the hook for. I obviously drew a claim that is a $300,000 claim just to show how it would work in breaching that layer of risk. So now that stop loss carrier would reimburse for this $50,000, but not that normal first 100 or above that first 100. You got to go all the way up to 250 for A. Smith in order for a reimbursement to kick in. So why does this happen? What do you do about it? Well, it happens because when stop loss carriers underwrite a case, they're trying to pinpoint lists that they can stratify, that they can pull out, that they can identify, because if you can offload some of that risk, again, it increases the likelihood of profitability. But when an underwriter is looking at a case that doesn't necessarily have anybody that's specifically identifiable that poses a big enough risk to laser, all of the premium that they're designating for the specific stop loss portion of that contract is for unpredictable, unknown risk, right? We've already talked about how these types of claims are wildly unpredictable, and that's why most of the premium goes towards the spec. Well, when there is somebody that is predictable enough or poses a large enough risk, you do want to pull them out if you can get away with it as a stop loss carrier. And I say get away with it because, again, you're pushing that back onto the employer. There's a lot of negotiations that can go around this. There's, you can get them to pull that laser back. Maybe they're going to dig in, but they'll give you some premium to offset some of that. But this is part of the game. And if you've been self-funded long enough, you've probably had a laser either imposed or at least proposed on a quote. And this is how it actually works. Now, there's other ways that lasers can apply. They can have a limited contract basis, which is another video. Stay tuned. I'll be shooting that one soon. Or they could potentially be carved out altogether, which is called an exclusion. Very rare, but some people might pose millions of dollars of risk to a plan, and there's just no way that a stop-loss carrier could build in enough premium in order to, again, absorb that risk. So they say, yeah, you're off. Take a hike. But in this one, targeted laser, A. Smith, 250K spec, everybody else, 100K spec. That's how it works. That's how they differ. That's how, it's still not any necessarily different than a regular deductible. It's just somebody has their own unique name deductible, and it's higher. More important. They're never going to give you a lower deductible. That would be just silly, right? Okay. So lasers, 250K spec, 100K for everybody else. And that's it. Not much more to it than that. I hope you enjoyed. I hope maybe you have some questions. Maybe we'll have a conversation on this post underneath the video. Stick around. Again, I'm going to talk about contract basis soon. I'm going to talk about no new laser contracts and how you maybe can prevent this from happening. And also, I have a bonus video planned. It'll be pretty short, but we're going to talk about something really cool called leverage trend. Again, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.